Inquiring minds want to know, why should you speak in tongues even without interpretation? Let's straight to it. There's only one verse in the Bible that people use to say you shouldn't speak in tongues without interpretation. 1 Corinthians 14:28. But here's the problem. It's almost always taken out of context. And when quoted, it's usually only half quoted. Let's break it down. 1 Corinthians 14:28 actually gives us 3 instructions. If there is no interpreter, let him keep silent in the church. Let him speak to himself. Let him speak to God. In one verse, there's only one rule against staying silent in a public setting without interpretation. But there are 2 instructions that affirm speaking in tongues without interpretation. Even in that very moment, speak to God yourself. Speak to God and let that sink in. The problem is some teachers skip the first 27 verses of 1 Corinthians 14 and jump straight to verse 28 to tell believers not to speak in tongues, completely missing Paul's content. Let's rewind. In 1 Corinthians 14:2, Paul already established that when a person speaks in tongues, their spirit prays and they speak mysteries to God, not to man. And in 1 Corinthians 14:4, Paul adds that speaking in tongues edifies the speaker. It builds them up. So when verse 28 says, let him speak to himself and to God, it reinforces what already has been said. Speaking in tongues edifies you and connects you directly to God, with or without interpretation. Is that not clear enough? Paul seals it in 1 Corinthians 14:39. Do not forbid speaking in tongues. It couldn't be plainer. Why haven't you heard this before? Because most people misunderstand 1 Corinthians 14. They don't realize Paul is distinguishing between the public and the personal benefits of tongues. And when each is appropriate, public ministry, if you're addressing others, you need interpretation because how else would they understand? And personal edification, even in a public setting, if it's between you and God, you're free to pray in tongues silently unto yourself. The key is context. Paul wasn't shutting down tongues. He was giving guidelines for order in the church so that personal prayer and public ministry could coexist without confusion. The bottom line, whether with or without interpretation, speaking in tongues is one of the most powerful spiritual disciplines a believer can cultivate privately. It builds up your spirit, aligns you with God, and unleashes divine mysteries. 1 Corinthians 14:3-4. And publicly, it ministers to others with interpretation. So don't let anyone muzzle your gift. Speak in tongues. Pray in the spirit. Edify yourself. Minister to God, because Paul's final word on the matter wasn't restriction, it was freedom. Do not forbid speaking in tongues. 1 Corinthians 14:39. If this message stirs something inside of you, don't ignore it. Like, follow, and share to help us awaken others. Access our free tools for spiritual growth and our blueprint training at info.rebuildthecity.com. And if you'd like to contribute to this work, your donation to rebuildthecity.net will help us reach more souls with the truth, love, and the gospel of Christ. Let's rebuild the city. Ashe.